Hey, how's everybody doing? Glad that you are with me on this open forum show. If you want to get in on the program, it is so easy to do. You can give me a call and we will put you right on. We have got many things I want to talk about today. Of course, we start with the Kings, who are getting ready for a road trip in Salt Lake City tomorrow. Here's your schedule. The Jazz, then they're at Houston, at Dallas, at Denver. Come home and take on San Antonio, and then they are at the Clippers. Then you have the Knicks coming in, at the Warriors, at the Suns, then Memphis, Cleveland, Chicago, Milwaukee, Boston, Oklahoma City. What a brutal stretch for Sacramento. That's why tomorrow's game is an absolute must-win game. All right? Absolutely must-win game. This is an open forum show. You can come at me with anything that you want. I didn't get a chance to talk about this yesterday, but the recent Four Nations Face-Off hockey tournament was phenomenal. And I'll tell you how phenomenal it was. When's the last time during NBA All-Star Weekend you heard so much talk about hockey? The TV ratings for the United States Canada finale in Boston was the highest rated hockey game ever on ESPN. The numbers were the exact same for the final round of the Masters last year on CBS. Chew on that for a while. All right. It peaked at 11.5 million. It averaged 9.5 million for the TV ratings. Then there was a lot of talk about the NBA. And would the NBA kind of do that with the United States versus the world for their All-Star game? The problem with that is you'll never get the NBA players, never, to compete like hockey players in games that don't mean anything for their respective teams. They'll never do it. They won't do it. All right? They'll never, ever do it. And thank you very much for your super chat. Greatly appreciate that. Character jumping in the air, joyfully saying yippee. Hey, you know what? Whatever. Thank you for your super chat. But you'll never get NBA players to compete like that. So it would be nice. I think it would improve the competition. But what we just saw from the National Hockey League All-Stars was great. And you don't have to like hockey. It was great. There were a lot of people that were watching that weren't rabid hockey fans. It was a phenomenal spectacle with the Four Nations face-off. So I want to say that. All right. So I saw a tweet here from Patrick. I know he may not be too familiar with your audience, but do you have any thoughts on the late Al Trautwig? Did you ever cross paths with him? He will sorely be missed by this fellow Long Island native. I knew Al. I used to talk to Al almost every year when I went to Madison Square Garden and he was working the Knicks games. Whether it was he was a pregame host, did halftime, did all of that stuff. Al was just a great guy. A lot of people are familiar with Al Trautwig that aren't from New York because he did a lot of Olympic coverage. Al was a multi-dimensional sportscaster. Al was an incredible host. You know, I put Al kind of like Chris Berman. Al's play-by-play was not to the level that I would like. He did some Knicks games, but he wasn't embarrassing. I don't mean it that way. But his forte was as a host, as an Olympic commentator. So I did know Al, not well, but he would always come up to me and we would always shake hands and talk. And he was always asking me questions about the team. He always had his homework done. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about Al. Unfortunately, he passed away from a battle with cancer. He was a fixture in New York on Madison Square Garden television, MSG, among other things. But he was a extremely popular figure in the New York metropolitan area. So there you have it. Nate, on what scale are top NHL player salaries compared to NFL, NBA, and MLB? I don't have the numbers in front of me, Al. It would be very easy to Google. The highest paid hockey players get paid very well. They don't get paid in the same area as a National Football League quarterback or a top-of-the-line NBA player. So I'll just leave it at that. It'd be very easy to find out. Big game tonight in the NBA. Luka going against the Dallas Mavericks in LA. Lakers and Mavericks. Can you imagine being a Mavericks fan right now? Seriously. After watching your team in the NBA Finals a year ago, and you trade Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis, who got hurt in his first game and is still out and may not be back for a while. He'll be reevaluated next week, but that just means reevaluated. What a mess. That's going to be a hell of a spectacle tonight, but it will be much better it will be a much better game when it's in Dallas for obvious reasons. That's going to be something to see what the fans do there. You know, that is going to be incredible. All right, again, if you want to get in on the show or just hit me up on the chat line, you can do so. Grant, let's see. Please see chat before dollar chat. All right, let me go back and look at that. I'll see what I can do. Sometimes these go so quick that I can't see them. So, you know, give me a break here and I'll see if I can get back and look at that. You know, I would say this about the NBA All-Star game. The problem I have with the NBA All-Star game is that everyone is talking about what's wrong with the league. And when you have an NBA All-Star game and what comes out of there is what's wrong with the league, that's not good. All right? That's not good. That is not good when you have people asking what's wrong with the league. Did I talk to Jerry about keeping eyes on the rim and not looking up at a ball too early? Might help with threes. Grant, Ricky Berry taught me this in 77. I've talked to Jerry a lot about basketball mechanics when he coached and what he taught. Different shooting coaches have different ways of teaching. I always remember being taught, even though I didn't play a lot of basketball, about that eyes on front of the rim. Listen, this is the National Basketball Association. You have the best coaching in the world for all intents and purposes. It's not like they don't know what they're doing. All right. Burning question. How did you meet Ryan? When did you realize he could work with you? And what have you noticed about his ability to grow in the job and get so much better than when he began? I don't know when I first crossed paths with Ryan. He is a huge Jim Rome fan, and I filled in for Romey for a long time. And then my local show in Sacramento, obviously 27 years or 26 years. Ryan reached out to me and asked me for some advice. And I got back to him and we started conversing. And I just started helping him. And he started sending me some work of things that he was starting to do. And I critiqued his work. I gave him advice, obviously. I mentored him. And I saw that he had potential but more importantly, the drive and the will to do this. There's a lot of people that want to be broadcasters. I have people coming up to me all the time, even today, that are in midlife and want to change their career, and they want to do this and they want to do that. And it is so hard in the middle of your career to change paths and get into broadcasting. But Ryan's drive and his desire to continually learn and study the medium, I gave him an opportunity to do some things with me. And he used to call in on the show that I used to do on Listen App, which was audio only. And his calls were innovative. They were different. They were excellent. And I decided to have him on my podcast. And it just grew from there. And then when we did this format, it just kind of evolved because I believed in him. And I thought that he could do it and do it well in due time. And I think he's gotten to that point. I'm very proud of him, what he's been able to accomplish. And at some point, I will hand the keys over to him and he'll be just fine. You know, I'm not to that point yet. I still enjoy doing this, but there will come a time when that will happen. And he'll be ready. He's ready right now. He could do shows easily. Well, he does shows by himself right now. You know, when we first started doing this, he was not able to do a show by himself, really. Now he can do tons of shows by himself. So that's how that all started. I love teaching people the broadcast profession. I've really have enjoyed doing that. I've done that with Nando in New York, who started a podcast on Miami sports, and I gave him all kinds of advice on how to do it. I had him on my podcast. He reached out to me a lot in the beginning, and I gave him advice. I've mentored Nico, who is a junior at Syracuse, who is from El Dorado Hills, that reached out to me when he was in high school, doing stuff on the local radio station at school. You know, I love doing that. And Nico, to me, has probably improved more than any other person I've ever worked with in the duration that I have mentored him. Now, he goes to Syracuse, which is the creme de la creme of broadcasting. So I don't want to make it sound like, you know, I'm the reason why Nico's doing so well. That's not true. But what I have done with Nico at an early age was guide him and teach him the basics of don't do this, don't do that. You know, listen to your work and listen to others that are doing what you want to do. Study them, develop your own style, and then go for it. And Nico does hockey. He does basketball. He does volleyball. He does everything at Syracuse. I'm very proud of him, man. Very proud of him. So I do enjoy teaching broadcasting because I've studied broadcasting ever since I was in grade school. I really have. I've studied it. And when I listen to games on radio, a great radio announcer will announce the game in present tense. A great radio announcer will announce the ball going into the basket as it's going into the basket. Not to brag, but I showed Ryan this, I showed Nico this. There is a video that Dave Grashoff put together of me in the early 2000s of a Kings-Mavericks playoff game in Dallas, which was an epic game. It's to this day, it's one of the most enjoyable, I think, best games I've ever announced. And before the game, Dave was shooting video for Channel 13, and he came up to me and said, "Can I put a mic on you? I'd love to get your play-by-play and sync it with the video." I go, "Yeah, of course." Well, Dave ended up putting a video montage of me calling a game, which was on radio, and it's on YouTube. And if you go to Grant Napier's Best Calls, you can see it. And I don't normally do this, but I'm doing this to illustrate a point because I think it's very important for those of you that may be watching right now that have a son or a daughter, or maybe you yourself want to get into broadcasting. And the point I'm trying to make is that in basketball or other sports, the best play-by-play announcers, and I'm talking about the best, okay, announce the game in present tense, and when a basket is scored, the announcer is in complete sync with the ball going in the hoop as it's going in. On YouTube, it's called Grant Napier's Best Calls, and it's DG, which is for David Grashoff, DG Grant Napier Calls. And it's my radio. It's about 2 minutes or a minute and a half of my calls in the Kings Mavericks game. And I'm so happy that Dave put that together because, again, it's one of my most enjoyable, favorite moments that I've ever had in broadcasting. And I'll always remember it because after the game, I interviewed Bobby Jackson, who was phenomenal. And I had about 10 empty water bottles in front of me. And I was just, and Bobby comes over and he goes, he's looking at me and goes, "You drink all those?" I go, "Yeah, I was working hard, Bobby. Just like you, man. I was working hard." And I was. And you can see, he actually has a video of me after a timeout. He zooms up into me and you can see my animated face. So it's pretty cool. But back to radio play-by-play. Radio play-by-play and TV play-by-play are night and day. They're two different mediums. One has nothing to do with the other. In the sense of, on radio, I am your eyes and your ears. On TV, you can see what's going on. On radio, you can't see what's going on. I love doing play-by-play on radio much more than on TV, much more. Love doing games on radio. Love announcing hockey on radio. Hockey on radio is my favorite sport to call. Loved it. But back to radio announcing. Don't tell me what happened. Tell me what is happening. And when I hear the roar of the crowd, I don't want to hear the announcer telling me that the ball went into the basket 2 seconds later. I want the announcer announcing the ball going into the basket simultaneously with the roar of the crowd. That's what I look for. You know, it's funny, I get this, not a fan of Joe Buck. Joe's one of the great broadcasters of his generation. One of the great broadcasters of his generation. How many guys do you know that have announced the Super Bowl and the World Series? I love Joe, and he's also a great guy. Great guy. Phenomenal guy. All right, if you want to get on the program, you can do so. If not, you can continue to hit me up here on the chat. I hated that guy on the Mavs back that would hit threes on us all the time. Forgot his name. Michael Finley? That guy? Ian Eagle is good. Ian is great. Ian is great. Love Ian. Love Ian. So anyway, you know, ask yourself when you watch a game or you listen to a game, do you pay much attention to the announcers? On radio, you would, because in radio, you have to listen to the announcer. You have to be captivated by the radio announcer. I hate mundane. I'm a Kevin Harlan style guy. I'm more in the Kevin Harlan category. I like animation. I'm high energy. Some people aren't high energy, and it works for them. I'm high energy. You know, if I went on and did a game and I wasn't high energy, I couldn't do the game. So, I mean, you know, it's the same thing. You know, I mentored Doug Christie. Doug didn't know anything about broadcasting. Nothing. I remember going out to lunch with him in Roseville. I met him for lunch. And we talked about this. And we had a long discussion. And I told him I would help him. I told him, hey, I'm going to be very open with you. And if you're doing something that I think is wrong, I'm going to tell you. And you have to be coachable if you're going to do this, because I will teach you. And I think you have the ability to be very good, but you have a lot to learn because you're raw. You've never done it before. And we played golf all the time. You know, we went out to dinner all the time. We went out to dinner almost every single road game. We played golf all the time in Sacramento. Then when he started, you know, when he was my radio partner, I mean, obviously I was with him 4 hours every day. Every day. And there's a lot of talk that goes on between the commercials. You know, we get a 4 or 5 minute break. We're in this studio and we're just kind of, you know, talking back and forth. And you know, he would always ask me, Napes, how was this? How was that? How was this? Napes. And I would be very honest with him. Very honest with him. About everything. You know, about delicate situations that would happen, whether it was be a major story in Sacramento, a major sports story, a suspension. I would tell him, I would like, hey, this is how you should handle this, but it's up to you. It's not my show. It's our show. If you want to go on and talk about it, you can, but I'm going to advise you not to. I was very open with him about everything. Everything. Very, very open about him. So, you know, I enjoy teaching broadcasting. I'm not like, I don't know it all, but I know a lot. And I know a lot more than the people that I've been teaching. So I feel very confident in giving recommendations and tips and everything else, because these are people that need to be coached. And there are people that you watch every night doing Kings games that need to be coached, but unfortunately, there's no one capable of coaching them. It's just the way it is. I think Mike Breen's one of the best basketball play-by-play men. Yes, I would. Absolutely. Kruk and Kipe, Giants announcers, are great. They are great. The only thing I don't like about Kruk, I think he's very unfair to the umpires. I think he's very unfair to the umpires. That's the only thing I don't like, but they are great. They are great. They are. I think that they might be among the very best for local Major League Baseball teams. Incredible. Let's see here. John wants me to put the link back up. There it is. Or you got the QR code above me. That's not working, you said? How about the QR code above my shoulder? But that's the link. That's what I have. So hopefully that will work for you. But, you know, back to, you might like an announcer that I don't like and vice versa. It's subjective, right? It's subjective. So you think Mark Jones is awesome? I think Mark Jones is awful, like awful. Matter of fact, when I watch college football and Mark Jones comes on, very often I turn the game off. I think he's unlistenable. I think he's horrible. Kevin Harlan is amazing. Yes. Was I friends with Ralph Lawler? Yes. Used to love talking to Ralph. You had him on my radio show all the time. Big fan of Ralph. Tell you an interesting story about Ralph. When the Clippers were horrible, I had him on my radio show, and I asked him about the challenge of announcing for such a bad team every year. Now, grant you, I know what that's like. But at least I had 8 years of a playoff run where Ralph announced an embarrassing franchise year after year after year. And Ralph said, you know, my job doesn't change, whether the team is good or bad. And he gave a very eloquent answer that resonated with me, that your job remains the same, whether you're announcing a good team or a bad team. And your job is to hold the audience with whatever mechanisms you have in your toolbox to hold the audience when things are not going well. And I believe that was the strongest gift that I had working with Jerry, because we announced a lot of bad teams over the years. And when the team was getting blown out, I then knew we had to go in a different direction. And it was more of a storytelling type of a game than me actually focusing in on the game itself. That's when I really brought out Jerry's personality, his humor, to try to keep the audience watching us till the end, which is not easy. But Ralph gave me a great answer. And it was, he was like, hey, my job doesn't change whether the team's good or not. My job is to do this and that. So, and listen, when the Clippers were bad and Ralph worked with Bill Walton, the Clippers were horrible, but everybody watched because they were so funny. Appreciate the super chat donation there, Todd. Thank you very much. Yep, Lawler's Law. The team to score 100 first wins the game. I don't watch Charlotte much and Eric Collins, so I'm not an expert on Eric. I haven't watched him enough to comment on that. Joe Morgan and John Miller when Sunday Night Baseball was good. Yep. They were great. Thank you for that. I've done an excellent job mentoring Rhino. Well, Rhino's done an excellent job getting to this point where he is able to do everything on his own. He does an excellent job. Very, very, very proud of him. Riley, Napes, I have to think it's easier to broadcast when team is successful, especially for someone like you with so much passion for the game. It's more enjoyable. All right? It's not easier. It's more enjoyable. Ralph would tell you this too. It's much more enjoyable announcing for a winning team than a losing team, or at least I believe that. But it's not easier. It's just more enjoyable. I mean, announcing a game is announcing a game. A good game has you riveted, and maybe you concentrate just a little bit more, because in this business, we are judged on how we announce the biggest moments. That's how you're judged. I can do a 48-minute basketball game. Like, for instance, when Bogdan hit the game winner against the Lakers over Christmas, whenever that was, 5 years ago, that was trending all over the world because Mike Bird, our director, had put a little camera in front of us to show the animation of us announcing the game, and particularly me, and that's why he did it, because he told me that. And they put that video out on social media, and we were trending all over the world. We had millions and millions of people that watched that clip, the Bogdan game winner. Nobody will remember anything from that game other than that piece of video. They won't remember that maybe I had a great call in the first quarter or the second quarter or the third quarter. No, they'll remember that 30-second video clip in my call of Bogdan hitting the game winner. That's what people remember. So in a big game, when you know that a big moment could be happening based on the score and the time, you want to hit a home run. You don't want to hit a single. You don't want to hit a double. You don't want to hit a triple. You want to go home and turn on ESPN Sports Center, and you want to be the top call of the night, right? You remember the top 10 calls of the night? That's what you wanted. And not to brag, but I was the number one call on many occasions on ESPN's top 10, and that was a great thrill for me. The moment. You have to seize the moment. All right? You have to seize the moment. Thank you for the super chat. I don't understand Rome a shame. Hope you get restitution for everything. Thank you very much. Listen, I had a great time doing the Jim Rome show. It was great. It was phenomenal. But you're judged in this profession by how you call the big calls. All right? You either hit it out of the park or you don't. Okay? You either hit it out of the park or you don't. And I took great pride in the biggest of moments to deliver. That's what I live for in this profession. That's what I did. I absolutely lived for those moments. Didn't watch much of the NHL, but I thought Doc Emmerich was beyond incredible. Doc was great. Doc was in a class by himself. Absolutely in a class by himself. You're correct about that. Don't forget, tomorrow we got the Kings and the Jazz, and Rhino with the pregame, Jerry at halftime, and the postgame as the Kings start a road trip in Utah against the Jazz. All right. I have not yet confirmed with Ryan whether we're doing a Kings roundtable tomorrow. So just subscribe to the channel and you'll know when we're going to be doing content. If we do it, it will be at 4:00. All right. Not a huge NHL fan, but I liked when Howie Rose called hockey games in New York. Howie was great. Great. Howie's a great announcer. There's no question. What do I think about Steve Stone baseball? You know, I used to watch WGN with Harry Carey and Steve Stone. And, you know, Steve was a great storyteller, but here's what I did not like about Steve. He has a very monotone voice. There's very little inflection in Steve Stone's voice. And I personally, he was not pleasant to my ears. He and Harry were a great team, but his voice was not pleasant to my ears. So I didn't really care for him because he had very little inflection in his voice. Again, subjective. All right. Grant, what do I miss most announcing games live? Trust me, you are missed in Sacramento announcing the games. Thank you. I miss the big moments. That's what I miss. I live for the big moments. I love the big moments. Loved them. Grizzlies look like a fraud team right now, just struggling with the Suns. Horrible defense by the Grizz. Fraud team? Come on. Have you looked at their record? Come on. Let me bring up the standings so I have this exactly. Fraud team. You wish the Kings were the Memphis Grizzlies. You wish your team was the Memphis Grizzlies. Yeah, Memphis is a fraud at 37-20. Third in the West. Yeah. Yeah, they're a fraud team, all right. Is the game over in Memphis? I'm just curious. Are you looking at a different game than I am? It's 34-31 with 14 seconds left in the third. What kind of stupid message is that? Seriously. What kind of stupid message is that? Lakers are favored by 9.5 versus the Mavs tonight. I don't look at betting lines, but that's interesting. But I would think the Lakers are going to win that game. When am I going to have Sean Salisbury on again? Probably not till football season unless something else big happens, and he would be happy to come on with me. What do I think about the ABS automatic ball strike challenge system? Once baseball goes to automation with balls and strikes, I will completely 100% stop watching the game. 100%. Their own announcers are calling them out. Well, they might be playing poorly, but they're not a fraud. I mean, Wake up, would you please? It's the first quarter. It's the first quarter. Unbelievable. Nape Butler looks great with the Warriors. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. All right, so tomorrow, Kings basketball with the opening of a 4-game road trip. We will have all of the coverage with the pregame, halftime, and postgame. I want to come on for 30 or 40 minutes today, just talk about a couple of things on this open forum show. And I appreciate the feedback and everything else. Best college for announcing. Syracuse is regarded as the best broadcast school in America for sports announcing. All right, for sports announcing. Baseball is terrible now. First the clock and now this. I like the clock, but I can't watch baseball anymore. I just can't. All right. Thank you. I'm going to wrap it up. I will talk to you tomorrow. Kings basketball. We'll see if they can get off to a good start against the Jazz. Then they move on to Houston, Dallas, and Denver. Love the questions today. Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.